The Trans-Catalina Trail is one of the premier hiking adventures in the state of California. The 38.5-mile trail traverses the island of Catalina, giving you access to stunning Mediterranean landscape, beautiful coastal views, bison roaming the hills, and campsites right on the beach. We set out to hike across the island on a 5-day adventure utilizing a gear haul service from Catalina Backcountry. Here's the video of our 5 days on the island, and note, this is a really long one, so if you just want to see the highlights, I have a 3-minute video in the description. We started our adventure by loading up the gear and heading over to the ferry. Made it over to San Pedro to take the boat to Catalina. I got my buddy Jared and my dad on this 5-day Trans-Catalina adventure. We decided to take the boat from San Pedro as that was the only port that went to both Avalon and 2 harbors when taking the trip, and we wanted to be able to leave our car in one location. Cowboys ready to go.
All right, baby. Saddle up.
Loading up and heading over to Avalon. After we loaded our gear onto the boat and grabbed a seat, we left for the hour and 20-minute ride over to Avalon. I always enjoy leaving from the Port of Los Angeles as you get to go by cruise ships, the museum, the Port of Los Angeles Welcome Center, and the Angels Gate Lighthouse, which is one of my favorite in Southern California. Eventually we hit the choppy open water and were able to relax before our adventure started. Along the way we even got to stop and see some dolphin, and they were jumping out of the water, which was pretty cool. As the boat approached the island, it gave us a really good perspective of how big this island is and how many hills we were going to be climbing on our hike. Eventually, the historic casino came into view and we docked at Avalon. Thank you, Sherpa. We made it to Avalon, heading to lunch. Our first day on the island was technically a 0 day, as all we had to do was make it the 1.5 miles to Hermit Gulch Campground before starting the trail the following day. Since we were using the Catalina Backcountry gear haul, we took our gear to the campground first and then went back in the city to start the hike. So we dropped our stuff off. We're back in Avalon at the trailhead. This is the official start of the Trans-Catalina Trail. We're gonna go 1.5 miles back to the campground. We're gonna stop and get food and get ice cream before we do that. Since we had some time to explore, we went to the Trailhead Adventure Store first to look around a little bit and to grab a map. This is also where you get a hiking permit for the trail, but with campground reservations, that worked as the permit when we went. So we're in Avalon right now, and we are going all the way up to Blackjack tomorrow, then on to 2 harbors, and then finishing at Parsons Landing. Looks like a long ways. It's pretty crazy that this morning we were in Los Angeles, and only like 2 hours later we are starting a 5-day backpacking trip, and this is the starting point. I'm pretty excited about this. Our first order of business was to get some food at MDMK Fish House in Avalon.
Fish tacos.
And then a scoop of ice cream at Scoops. This is how we are starting our 38.5 miles.
This hike is easy.
After that, we left the town of Avalon behind us and started the walk back to Hermit Gulch. Do note that there's a Vons in town as well if you need some last-minute essentials before you start the hike. We're leaving the city of Avalon, going past the golf course, and we're about a mile from Hermit Gulch Campground. This is a nice, easy walk with a gradual incline and some good views of the golf course and the surrounding terrain. We noticed that the Catalina Island Conservancy was open, so we stopped in to look around a little bit before heading to our campsite. This is a cool little spot with lots of exhibits on the area, and it's worth checking out. As much as you want to, don't approach the feral cats. These guys are bison, not buffalo. Bison. We are finishing day 1 on the TCT and arriving at Hermit Gulch Campground. I wish all days could be like that, just eating ice cream and fish tacos and walking a mile and a half. There's our campsite right there, and then here is the official Trans-Catalina Trail sign that we're gonna be starting and going that way tomorrow. Also, if you have time while you're here and you want to, that's the Wrigley Botanical Garden up there. It's actually a really cool spot to check out. I have a few clips that I'll play right here of last time I went there. The garden costs to enter and it has a ton of different plants, but it specializes in plants found on the California Islands on Channel Islands National Park. Plus at the top there's a memorial for the Wrigley family as well. Back at the campground, we were getting all of our stuff set up for the night. The reason why we have so much gear is that we partner with Catalina Backcountry, which is a gear haul service on the Trans-Catalina Trail. My dad hasn't backpacked in like 35 years. Jared's never backpacked before. So I wanted to give him a cool experience where we got to go on a backpacking trip that's 38.5 miles, but where we didn't have to carry our gear. Also note that if you're strapped for time, a lot of people skip Hermit Gulch and they just go right from the ferry to start the trail and head up to Blackjack. I enjoyed this easy day though, as it let us explore Avalon a little bit more and not be rushed.
Chicken and dumplings. Southern style.
Southern style. Our last order of business was just to make dinner, play some cards, and relax before starting our official first day on the trail. Day number 2 on the Trans-Catalina, our first official day on the trail. Got breakfast, cleaning up camp, and we're heading out on about 9 miles of hiking today. We're leaving Hermit Gulch on the Trans-Catalina Trail. Next stop, Blackjack Campground. We were told that this first part is the hardest part on the trail. It's about 1.25 miles and it's 1,400 feet of elevation, so we'll see how it goes. But we got great hiking weather. It's nice and cool, a little bit of cloud cover, so excited about today. The first 1/4 mile or so is relatively gradual with a couple little stream crossings, but after that you just start heading up on switchbacks. Shedding cold weather gear already. The uphill in the sun means you don't need long pants or jackets. We did the hike in early February and it was actually pretty warm for us most of the time with not a lot of shade. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this in the heat of the summer as it'd be pretty brutal. This trail is climbing fast. You can see the trail that we came up right there. You can see the campground way down there in the distance. Already starting to get some pretty awesome views. I think this is gonna be a beautiful day as we get higher. It's fun that this trail has a mile marker for every mile that you pass, so keep your eyes peeled for them during the entire 38-mile journey. You can see the dock all the way out there and then the field that we walked by all the way up to our campground. Guessing we're going all the way up to there. This trail is beautiful right now. It's all green in the spring and there's some wildflowers that are just now starting. There isn't a lot to say about this portion of the trail as we're just going up, and luckily there were switchbacks here as there isn't many switchbacks on the rest of the trail. We've gained some good elevation already, but honestly this trail is not as bad as it made out to be. There's some switchbacks on the steep parts and it's a pretty good grade, but it's not too bad. With all the added elevation, the views just kept getting better and better looking back towards Avalon. We're almost past the elevation for today. We are getting close to the road, which is up here. There's the ferry out in the distance getting ready to dock. But we're way up here.
I'm an old man.
Does that mean you're doing good?
I'm hanging in there.
Barely.
Barely.
As we continue to head up, we eventually pass by mile marker 3. Check it out, where we just got. You can see the ocean from both sides of the island. Really cool. We are almost to the rest area. That's where we're gonna stop and have a snack. After the last few switchbacks, we finished the main elevation gain portion of the day and made it to a great rest stop. We are here. That's the campsite. This is the area we just came up. 1.7 miles and 1,600 feet of elevation done. Woo!
A lot of elevation there for me.
Now it's break time. Woo! Watch out for bison, they're dangerous. The lady told us yesterday that 3 people were airlifted out in helicopters from bison chasing them down a hill, so we're gonna stay away from the bison if we see them. Heading out from our snack spot, we got about 6 more miles left to go to Blackjack, but we've done most of the incline, so now it's just small ups and downs to get to the campground, so should be pretty nice. Apparently it might rain tonight though, which was not on the forecast. Oh my gosh, you're gonna hurt yourself before we make it to the campground. If you need a bathroom on the trail, there's one right here next to the rest spot. So we were just walking along this fire road, and then that right there is where our campground is. This part of the trail was nice as it was relatively flat with great coastal views, and we passed mile marker 4. We made it to mile 4, basically just continuing to walk this dirt road. Getting some pretty awesome views down towards Avalon right now. You can see the current trail layout. We kind of just come down and then we go back up. After passing the antennas, we were finally able to leave the road and go back on an actual hiking trail. Watch out for this junction. You don't want to go down the road. You want to go that way. It's nice that we finally got to leave the road because it feels more like we're on a hiking trail again. Crossing over this hill is where we passed mile marker 5. We're officially entering bison country through this little gate. Uh-oh.
Oh, it moves. That makes difference.
Just make sure you close the bison gate then. Bison can't fit through that little small part right there.
We totally do feel like we're entering Jurassic Park right now.
Fortunately for us, there was no bison in this area, just some more rolling hills. Apparently the weather notifications were right. It is starting to sprinkle. Hopefully it doesn't rain too bad until we can get to our campground and set up our tent. We are leaving the bison zone. Did not spot any bison. Trans-Catalina Trail, that direction. We found a playground and Jared really wanted to hit the slide before we kept going. Woo! Yeah! Also note that the Trans-Catalina Trail is actually on the other side of the lake. We almost missed coming over here. It's definitely good to have a map or an All Trails download, as there are a few sections of the trail that were a little bit hard to follow. There's a lot of times where you go down like we did right there, and then you come right back up the other side. We are starting to get some rain. It's a fox right there. Right there. After seeing the fox, we continue to parallel the road and past mile marker 6. Making it closer and closer to our destination, that peak out there with the tower on top of it. We made it to about 6.5 miles. There's another good rest spot right here, but it's really windy and a little bit of rain, so we're not gonna stay here very long. We're leaving the rest spot. We're heading across to that trail right there. It is getting windy and cold. Like a couple miles left. After leaving the road, the trail takes a real roundabout way to get to the next hill. It goes down about 150 feet and then through a little gully, and then it starts to go up another 150 feet. After passing mile marker 7, that's where we started to go uphill again, all the way until we got to a dirt road. We've got to the top of this ridge line, and now we gotta go all the way down into this canyon and across, then all the way back up again. A lot of people underestimate this hike as they think that it can't be that much elevation gain on an island, but it's actually a lot tougher than it looks, and there's basically no switchbacks, so you're going down and up on steep hills. We've reached the bottom of this hill, and now we're going back up. This is the first of 2 300-foot inclines that we have to do to get to Blackjack. I had kind of assumed that the elevation was over after the first main hill, but we ended up doing about another 1,000 feet of just going up and down on the way to the campground. We did pass mile marker 8 in this section though. We're going uphill and we traded wind and rain for sun. Both have their pros and cons. We were up on that ridge line the last time we had a snack. Now we are all the way over here. Woo! We're almost to the top. We're just about to get over our first 300-foot hill before our next one. As we got to the top of the first hill, it gave way to some of the best coastal views we'd seen so far on the trail. We can see the end of our trail for today. As we began the downhill, we got views of our final destination for the day and past mile marker 9. We are right here. Blackjack's right there. We've basically already done a third of the island. Heading back down from our last rest point to the water down here, another 300 or so feet down. Then it's up to Blackjack Campground. Right at the bottom of the downhill, there's this awesome bench that looks like it's made out of trail marker signs. Plus, it's underneath a tree. If it was sunny, it'd be pretty nice. It's not sunny though. So this section of the trail we're going through right now is supposedly where a lot of bison hang out. You can see why, but we have not seen any. Pops made it through the bison area unharmed as well.
Not a bison in sight.
This is definitely the most beautiful part of the trail that we've came through. Really cool with the lake and all this different plant life and the possibility of bison, not for us, but man, it's beautiful back here. This is one of a half dozen or so lakes that we saw on the trail, and it's pretty cool to see them here as it's not what I would have expected. All right, we're leaving this awesome area and lake behind us, and we're doing the last push to Blackjack Campground. I didn't know what to expect on this section as it said only 300 feet, but it is incredibly steep. So definitely take your time with this one as you're gonna need it. That is where we were just at, right there. Came all the way down, and now we're coming up. We're rushing up to get the camp set up because the rain's supposed to come at 4. Jared and I pushed through the light rain towards the campground and let my dad go at his own pace so we could get set up before the rain hit. All right, we just came over the hill. There's the campsite out there. I'm so happy to see the campsite. It's raining, it's cold, and that was a steep push. Nothing a little dinner and getting in the tent can't fix. We made it to our campsite and our gear is waiting for us. It does not get better than that. After finally arriving at the campground, we found our campsite and got the tent set up while we were waiting for my dad to make it. Yeah, Pops, you made it.
Yeah, the old guy got it.
Man, that last uphill was brutal.
That uphill was very challenging.
Our last order of business was just to make some dinner, refill our water, and play some cards while hanging out in our tent as the rain fell. We're playing cards and listening to the sound of rain. That is the end of day 2 on the Trans-Catalina Trail. Morning day 3, it was a wet night. There was a lot of rain, so we're trying to dry our stuff out, pack it up, and then we're going over to the airport, which is about 2 miles from here, to get a nice warm breakfast. We made coffee while we were waiting for everything to dry and explored the campground a little bit before starting to pack everything up. Apparently there used to be a phone booth here. Not anymore though. Got all of our gear packed up. All we have to do is leave it here and start hiking. So today is the longest day on the trail for us. It's about 14 miles to get to 2 harbors, but 2 miles to get to the airport cafe where we get to have breakfast, then 12 more miles to our campsite. Make sure to take the junction going towards the airport and the awesome coastal views. This day is definitely one of the best for views, especially the section from Little Harbor to 2 harbors. All right, Trans-Catalina Trail, that direction. So that's the airport right there, but we got to go down the hill and back up to get to it, but there's an omelet waiting for us at the other side. This video is Pops doing the walk of shame because he left his hiking poles at the top of the hill when we already started going down. Now we are heading to the right. Watch for the signs. This section of the trail is pretty easy to follow if you just watch for the signs, plus you can see the airport in the distance most of the way down. We're in bison area again. That definitely looks like somewhere a bison would have laid. Hopefully we see one today, just not too close. The trail continued like this on a relatively steep downhill. It's the last bit of downhill before the uphill push. This is another beautiful area. We're like walking along a creek down in a valley with a little bit of shade. I could see why the bison would want to hang out down here. Still haven't seen any though. As we passed mile 12, we started the uphill grind. It was about 400 feet, but it was a lot less steep of an incline than what we had done the previous day. Do note that like most of the trail, there's no switchback, so it's basically just a straight up incline. We almost reached the top of the uphill and the airport cafe. Leaving the Trans-Catalina for the DC3 Gifts and Grill. Hikers welcome. Welcome to airport in the sky. After passing the hangar, we made our way over to the terminal, which is where the restaurant is located. It seems like they're open most days, but be sure to check the hours before you plan on going here. I found the prices and the portions to be pretty great for a spot like this. Nothing better than a meal like this on a backpacking trip. Bacon, scramble, sourdough toast, and hash browns. What do you think?
God, stop here. This is great.
Breakfast with a view.
Yep.
They also serve lunch if you want to grab a sandwich to go, and be sure to take some killer cookies with you. They're definitely an amazing trail snack. We took a long break here as I charged my camera battery, and I took some time to explore the property a little bit more before we continued on. All right, we're leaving the airport and we're starting the 6 miles downhill to Little Harbor.
Full belly, rehydrated. Onward.
The next portion of the trail had us starting the 6 miles downhill. We thought we were going downhill the entire way based on the All Trails map we were following, but it was an earlier version of the trail, and now there's some rolling hills before you can start the downhill approach. Getting some great coastal views. We're heading down to there somewhere. This is also the portion of the trail they said we are most likely to see bison on. There's a nice little lake right there, but I don't see any bison. It seems like this should be another bison viewing area right below the airport. Trans-Catalina Trail along the road. Because of the previous night's rain, the views across the water towards the mainland were incredible. So now we traded the trail for this dirt road that we're walking for a little bit, but look at these coastal views. You can see Malibu, Ranchos Palos Verdes, Santa Monica all out in the distance. After soaking in the views, we continue to enjoy the gradual downhill dirt road that we were walking along. This is one of those sections where we stopped often to take in the coastline. We reached this junction and it looks like you could go both directions, but apparently they're telling you to go this way. So we're just gonna stick with the Trans-Catalina Trail. We met people who took the road instead of the trail, but we wanted to stick with the official TCT. We got our first bison sighting. Unfortunately, it's very far away, but it is still a bison. It could be a little closer. Trans-Catalina Trail that way, and we're heading to the beach. During this portion of the trail, we crossed mile 15 on a single track trail that basically just wrapped around the hillside. Look at that nice uphill we get to do. Pops is so excited about that nice uphill. Even though this section of the trail was a little bit more of a roundabout way to get to Little Harbor, I appreciated not having to walk on a dirt road the entire way, as it definitely felt a lot more like hiking. I took a slight detour off the trail, but it was worth it. Amazing views. After getting past this portion, we headed back inland on a single track trail that hugged the hillside. It was pretty beautiful since it was spring and everything was really green. During this part of the trail, we crossed mile marker 16 and eventually got to another awesome coastal viewpoint. First view of Little Harbor, way down there. We still have to go along this ridge line all the way down to get there. Since we did this trail in the late winter or early spring, it was really pleasant for us, but note that there's basically no shade, so you're not going to want to do it when it's hot. We're starting our descent to Little Harbor. I'm super excited to see what the beach looks like down there, because it's pretty incredible up here. We're continuing our way down the trail, and it looks like there are some bison on our trail down there, so we'll see how it goes when we get close to them. We were excited about the possibility of seeing bison, so we hurried past mile marker 17 and made our way down towards where they were at. Once you get to the bottom of that big downhill we've been doing, there is a spot to rest if you want. Check it out, there are bison on the trail. We have to maintain 200 yards, which should be fine. We should be able to walk our trail. But that's pretty cool to see. Get a better view in a second with my zoom lens. We were really excited to be able to see bison as we had wanted to see them on the trail, and this was a great way to view them at a safe distance. That was a pretty crazy experience. We stayed as far away from them as we could, but they still watched us as we walked along the trail. There's a bunch more way up on the hillside up there too. At this point, we crossed mile marker 18 and we were just excited to get to Little Harbor and to take a break. This is Little Harbor in front of me, and I am super bummed that I'm not staying there. It looks incredible. We made it into Little Harbor. This is an amazing looking campsite, but we're just gonna have a snack, check it out a little bit, and then continue on to Two Harbors. Don't leave the airport without getting their killer cookies. Believe me, these things are so worth it. They're an awesome snack on the trail. We are here. We gotta go all the way to there. About 5 miles left today. After taking a break, I walked around the Little Harbor campground area, and let me tell you, this is an amazing place to stay. If I was to do this trip again, I probably would skip the night at Hermit Gulch and just try to get right to Blackjack, then make an easier day out of getting to Little Harbor, Two Harbors, and then Parsons Landing. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Little Harbor and do the 5.5 miles to Two Harbors. Jared and Pop starting the charge up the switchbacks. Enjoy this section when you get it, as it's the only switchbacks on this entire uphill push. The climb begins, but I have heard from multiple people this is the most beautiful section of the trail. We'll see if that's true. Oh my gosh, check out those views. It's incredible. When you get up to about the third switchback and you're looking back on Little Harbor, it's definitely one of the best views on the entire Trans-Catalina Trail. Leaving the coastal views of Little Harbor behind, I will definitely be back to that place. After leaving the switchbacks behind, note that this next section is incredibly tough. You'll be gaining about 1,200 feet of elevation on a really steep grade. More incredible views. The backside of the island is definitely the best part we've seen so far. During this section of the climb, we crossed mile 20. We made it to mile 20, halfway.
Sweet.
We're halfway through the elevation gain. Only a few hundred feet left to go, and it's all downhill to Two Harbors. We started all the way over there today. If you're following the same path as us, I definitely would recommend giving yourself a little bit more time for this section than we did. It's a lot steeper than you would think, and it takes a lot longer than you'd anticipate. When you guys climb to Two Harbors, watch out. There's no switchbacks, no shade. You can see how steep it is. The only real reward for the steepness of this section is just that the views continue to get better and better as you make your way up. Woo! This has got to be the best view I've seen on the trail so far. This view came right as we crossed over about 850 feet. Then we had to go downhill for a little while before the last climb. Last uphill of the day takes us along this ridgeline up to here. It was at this point that we crossed mile 21 and reached the part that my dad says was the most difficult on the entire trail for him. They really don't like their switchbacks on this trail. Just straight up the ridgeline. It is crazy how steep this section is and how loose it is. Definitely feels pretty dangerous. The steepness of the trail was one thing, but there was a lot of loose rock, making each step one you had to think about. All right, that part was brutal. I still don't recommend it in the summer, but views are not bad. Eventually, we made it to the top and were greeted with an absolutely stunning coastal view. That uphill was absolutely brutal. But these views, man, I haven't seen anything like this on a hike in a long time. Not a bad break spot with this view and that beast of a hill we just climbed. Shout out to my crew tearing up this mountain with me. Oh wait, tearing up this island with me.
Right.
Next stop, campground. From here, the trail walks along a ridgeline and has a little bit more uphill before 1,200 feet of downhill to Two Harbors. This is also where we crossed mile 22, and it was amazing to be here at sunset with the incredible views and colors all around us. It's so windy, I doubt that you can hear anything, but epic sunset, Two Harbors campground, we're almost there. I didn't record a lot on the way down as it was incredibly windy and we were basically just racing the sun to not get down in the dark. Just note that this part is as steep going down as it was going up on the other side.
Bye.
We passed mile 23 and mile 24 in the dark before making our way to the Two Harbors campground. All right, we made it down a lot later than we're expecting, so we're just gonna set up camp, have some dinner, and that is the end of day 3. We slept in a little bit and woke to the sound of waves with our campsite right next to the beach. Starting day 3, the Trans-Catalina Trail, breakfast, coffee, and then we are heading out. It's about 7 miles to Parsons Landing for tonight. We took our time getting ready for the day since it was a lot fewer miles than the day before and explored the beach a little bit. Got all our stuff packed up, saying goodbye to the Two Harbors campground, and we're gonna make our way to Parsons Landing, the last stop on our trip. After yesterday's tough day, I cannot tell you how excited I am to not have to carry this gear. It's gonna be a good uphill again today, but at least with the packs it's a little bit lighter. It's a little over a quarter of a mile back into Two Harbors. We're gonna hit the general store and get some food because a lot of my food got eaten by the crows yesterday. And then we're gonna head out. This is all the stuff we didn't see in the dark last night. It's a beautiful area. That is where our campsite was last night. Crazy. So there's the dock. That is where we're gonna be leaving from tomorrow. We hike out to Parsons, hike back along that road, and then we'll be leaving from that dock. I definitely recommend not getting into Two Harbors at night if you can. It's a little bit hard to find the campsite since it's outside of the town. We found ours, but it definitely was a little sketchy. So get here before the sun goes down if you can. This is the trail that you take right here, but the campground is way over there. So before you go to Parsons, be sure to check in at visitor services and you can buy firewood and water, plus you can check in for your campsite. Also, general store is over there. That's where we're going next. There's a restaurant here as well, but be sure to check the hours because it was not open. It was only Fridays and Saturdays when we were here. Also, there's a bathroom and showers here at Two Harbors if you need either one. Last stop before heading out, the general store to get some food since the crows ate mine, and just to see what else they got here. The general store is a little bit more pricey than what you'd see on the mainland, but it's a great spot for food and snacks, and there's a lot of different options here. It is kind of weird to have biscuits and gravy.
No, it is not. Biscuits and gravy is always the right answer.
Loaded up at the general store with lunch, breakfast tomorrow, some duct tape, a Gatorade. It's a good spot. Lots of options there. We're leaving Pops. He's taking the roadway, and Jared and I are taking the mountain way. So we will see you again at Parsons.
I'm looking forward to being together again.
On the way to Parsons Landing, there are 2 different ways you can go on the Trans-Catalina Trail. The official way would be to take the Silver Peak Trail, which climbs about 1,800 feet and then descends about 1,800 feet down to Parsons Landing. The other way you can take is just to walk along the road, which is about 7 miles, but there's no real incline. Everyone we talked to took the road there and back other than Jared and I. And know that if you take the Silver Peak Trail, it's the toughest part of the entire hike by far. We're just walking this dirt road for about a half mile past the second harbor, then the uphill starts. This part of the trail is beautiful as Two Harbors is named because it has two harbors, and this part allows you to see the second one. We learned that land out there is San Clemente Island. I think it maybe is a military island or something, not sure. There's where Jared and I are heading, right there. The uphill begins. The uphill climb starts off easy enough as you're just walking a dirt road as you continue forward. We thought the bison were just yesterday, but apparently there are bison today, potentially as well. The nice thing though is that there's some great views of the second harbor as you make your way up. This trail is already no joke. There's no shade. The uphill is steep. No switchbacks like the rest of the trail. We're at about 600 feet of elevation gain. There's a picnic bench over there if you need a break. It is brutally steep. Hopefully we get some good views at the top. The nice flat section is over. The uphill begins again. This is the worst I've felt on the trail. Mile marker 26. Hot and steep. Check out those snow-covered peaks over there, that's crazy. As we finally crossed over the ridgeline we were walking next to, we were able to see amazing views back towards Los Angeles and Long Beach. It was incredibly clear today as well. This is easily the hardest part of the entire trail. It's about a 20% grade the entire time, and then there's these little pockets of shade that you gotta jump on when you get a chance because it's February right now and it's so incredibly hot. I can't imagine doing this in the summer. Not much else to say here other than that we just continued on and took breaks whenever we saw shade or saw some nice views. We reached a split. We're going uphill. Eventually we got up to a ridge where we could see over to the west side of the island as well. But we were still basically only halfway to the top of the elevation. Thought we had reached the top, but still gotta go all that ways before we can go down. Once you get to this portion of the hike, you still have a decent amount of elevation gain, but you're crossing over mile 27 and you can at least see the end in sight. So now we are going all the way to there. I remember on the way up when I was looking at that trail and I thought that was high. I had no idea what was in store for me. As difficult as this portion of the trail is, the views back towards the part of the island we had already hiked through are incredible. We're so close. We just made it to the tallest portion of this section of the hike. Huge shout out to anyone who's backpacking this and climbs that brutal section, as it is so hard. Thank you to Catalina Backcountry for not making me be one of them. Now it is all downhill to Parsons Landing. The end of the uphill. Woo! On the Trans-Catalina.
I'm excited.
I think that our campsite is right here. That tall mountain out there, that is where we spent our first night at Blackjack Campground. We took a good 20-minute break here just soaking in the views and eating our lunch. It was quite an accomplishment to get to this part of the Trans-Catalina Trail. When we were ready to move on, we passed mile 28 and began the downhill journey. That's the mountain that we came from, and we're just walking the ridgeline to the trail that connects us with the beach and campground. We're only 2.1 miles from Parsons Landing. Also, this is the trail you'd continue on to go to Starlight Beach, which is the furthest point, but we were told that this washed out, so don't go that way if you're wanting to see that beach. Yep, apparently the trail is still washed out to Starlight. It says no hikers. We only have downhill left to go, but how do you pass up a break spot with this view? Our campsite for the day is right here. I told Jared to keep hiking while I hung out on the bench so I could get some shots of him that showed how vast the landscape was right here. I had to pull myself away from our rest spot, but we're heading down on a fence line road. Also, in case you haven't noticed, the Trans-Catalina has a logo, so these are on all of the different posts that are Trans-Catalina. Making our way down the hill, and you can start to see our campsite right down there. As I'm sure you can imagine, this part is just as steep as the other side. Don't do this without hiking poles. It is really crazy how steep the grade is in this section. I don't know what the road's for, but there's definitely no way you're driving a car up it. We're at mile 29 and it looks like we're about to go off a roller coaster. The drop is right in front of us. There was no complaints from Jared and I about going downhill though, and we just took our time and enjoyed the views as we made our way down. If I had to guess, I'd say those are probably bison trails on the side of the hill right there. Hopefully this gives you a feel for how steep this section is. It's crazy that these sections are so steep that you don't actually see the trail. It's like the closest to going on a roller coaster as I've ever gone while hiking. Oh my gosh. I think the sun and all the miles of hiking is making us a little loopy, but we're almost to the campground. I was just walking down the hill and I almost stepped on this stake. It was a baby rattler, which are the worst ones because of their venom. Make sure you're watching as you're walking. I know there's a lot of rattlesnakes out here. We can see our campsite in view, and the Trans-Catalina goes to the left. Mile marker 30. Woo! Parsons Landing and the Trans-Catalina Trail. That way. First view of the campsite area, we made it. Finally arriving at Parsons Landing was an amazing experience. We got campsite number 2 and it was right on the sand. We made it to Parsons. Pops set up the tent, so first order of business is to put my feet in the water. If it was just a little bit warmer, I would be in this water, but this feels pretty darn good. There are only 9 campsites on Parsons Landing and they're all super spread out, so it basically feels like you have the entire beach to yourself. Parsons Landing for our last night on the trail is impossible to beat. Look at this beautiful view of the beach from our campsite. Also, huge shout out to Catalina Backcountry. I popped my air mattress last night and I let them know, and they brought me a cot for my last night on the trail. And they brought us some beers to congratulate us on completing the trail. How do you beat that? Cheers. That's a good way to end the day. Basically just sitting on the sand and relaxing, watching the sun go down, and then we're gonna have a campfire. If you come to Parsons, know that they do allow campfires on the beach, so make sure to pay in advance before you come to get your water, because there's no water refill stations, and your firewood. It was 20 bucks when we came. but you definitely want to be able to have a fire on the beach. Don't spend too much time sitting on the beach because you'll turn around and your tent is like that. After watching the sun go down, all that was left was for us to just sit and enjoy the campfire before heading to bed. My battery's about to die, so I'm not recording much else, but we got a campfire going at the beach, and that is the end of day 4. Day 5, saying goodbye to our gear one more time, and we got 7 miles to the ferry. This campsite's pretty amazing. Definitely stay here if you can on the Trans-Catalina Trail. Books up really early though, so get it in advance. Site 1 and Site 2 are probably the best. There's our campsite down there. Heading out. I may have to switch to my phone today though because my battery's almost dead. It's hard to keep your batteries charged on 5 days of backpacking. After leaving Parsons Landing, you have a few hundred feet of elevation before you make it back to the main road. It's 7:30 right now. We got 4 hours to finish this trail. Get it to the ferry by 11:30, but hopefully we get there a little early. We can have some coffee, just sit and relax to celebrate the end of the trail. After the previous 2 days, this day seems like a walk in the park as you're basically just walking the road all the way back to Two Harbors. Apparently Parsons Landing was a bison area. We didn't see any bison there, but that's what the gate's for. Check it out, there's like a pirate ship down there in that camp. That's fun. On the way back, you pass 4 or 5 of these campsites that are all nestled within different coves. There's a lot of bends in this road where you go in and then you go out the other side. As you can see, Jared right there and my dad across the way with his cowboy hat. I really enjoyed this part of the hike though, as it was peaceful and quiet with lots of nice coastal views. Good rest spot here if you need one with nice views. Still gotta go all around those mountains. There's lots of these campgrounds along the way, and the trails go all the way around them, so you can see them and then along the hillside right here. Another good break spot after going around this entire camp. Make sure you note when the ferry leaves, as it's about 7.5 miles from Parsons Landing all the way back to Two Harbors. The trail today is very laid back, but the coastal views are beautiful, and it's actually a really good end to the hard parts we've done the last 2 days. As you can see, we're passing miles pretty quickly, as there's not much to say. You're just walking along a dirt road and you're soaking in the amazing views. We got about 2.5 miles left. If you need a break, there's a bench and a bathroom, and the bench view goes all the way out there. And now we got a couple really long bends, but you can start to see Two Harbors coming in over there. That was a long walk to get from that bathroom all the way over to here, but we're getting close to Two Harbors. After passing our second to last campground, we made it to mile marker 37. Welcome to Santa Catalina Island. We are being welcomed. We've been here for a while though. One last long stretch and we'll be back at Two Harbors. As we made it around our last bend, we saw our first view of Two Harbors. Check it out, 2 harbors.
There's the end of the road, baby.
That means we're just about through 38.5 miles across Catalina. And you're a 70-year-old.
I'm not 70.
There's 2 harbors right there, and our campsite was over there. Just in case that's helpful if you book a campsite at 2 harbors. Now that is a nice view for a mile marker right there. Mile 38 with 2 harbors in the background. Jared is demonstrating a good last break spot. But we're on our way to the general store. Here we go, finishing the Trans-Catalina Trail right now.
Watch me slip and fall on my butt.
Pops is gonna break an ankle on the way down. As we arrived into 2 harbors, it was a pretty incredible experience to be able to check this off the bucket list. All right, we made it back to 2 harbors. Officially completed 38.5 miles on the Trans-Catalina Trail.
Heck yeah.
Woo! That was awesome. Celebrating with snacks, a beer, magnet, and a drink, and then we're gonna get lunch when we get over to the mainland. Shout out Catalina Backcountry for carrying our gear. The owner right here, thank you. It was an amazing trip. You're gonna hike the whole Catalina Trail and fall at the end of the, man.
This is amazing. Wow, come here right now.
We cleaned our plates at Roscoe's.
No problem.
And just like that, our 5 days on the Trans-Catalina is done with Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. We'll see you on the next video.